Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Southeast Media Sunrise, dedicated to giving a voice to authors of all genres. I'm your host, Jodi Hockinson. Joining us remotely by phone today is Adita Lang, author of SuperPowers, The Busy Woman's Guide to Health and Happiness. Adita Lang is a SuperPower aficionado, author of SuperPowers, A Busy Woman's Guide to Health and Happiness, speaker, and mother of two. Her journey started as a certified fitness instructor 30-plus years ago. Since her initial beginnings, she expanded her endeavors to specialize from a biomechanics and resistance training expert to nutritional guru, mind-body serenity coach to author and women's advocate for healthy living. Adita holds a BS in holistic nutrition, is an Lv3 Holistic Lifestyle Coach through the Chek Institute, and has been accredited by several respected organizations, including NASM, ACE, AFAA, and the University of Miami. She is a faculty member for the International Sports Conditioning Association and the Wellness Director for Fierce4 Fitness. She has trained thousands of fitness professionals worldwide and often speaks at schools, Fortune 500 companies, and private organizations on the benefits of quality foods, longevity, and amazing health. Welcome, Adita, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so very much. I'm so glad to be here.
So what inspired you to write SuperPowers?
Well, when I started in fitness, I'd have these clients that came to me with stains on their shirts. They couldn't get their workouts in for the life of them, and they were always completely just disheveled. And I was like, what is your problem? I couldn't understand it. But at that time, I was single, and I was footloose and fancy-free. So then all of a sudden, I got married, and I had 2 kids. And all of a sudden, I understood. I felt so bad for all of those people that I would give grief to for so long, because now I was in the midst of that. And with that, I realized that my own personal spark was starting to dwindle. And I was like, okay, this isn't right. I can't live life this way, and neither can anybody else. And so as I was trying to fix myself, many of my other mom friends were like, hey, I want a little bit of whatever you're drinking. Like, what are you doing? So I got more and more people inspired, and I'm like, it's this health thing. We've made health so complicated. It's really pretty simple, and we got to be able to easily and seamlessly fit it into our day-to-day. And so that's how SuperPowers got started. And I put it all together saying, okay, we can make this happen, and we can do it very easily. But all of it comes into that we've got to really start taking care of ourselves.
So would you say your inspiration was just out of self-help in the beginning?
Yes, absolutely.
So what are the 4 pillars of health?
So when I teach about health is a combination of your food and nutrition, exercise and movement, sleep and relaxation, and happiness. And ideally, you want to combine those, balance them out in your life so that, you live prosperously and you get energized and you have this zest for doing things. Because a lot of times what we do is we focus so much on just one of those areas that everything else just kind of falls by the wayside. And then we're still kind of miserable and not understanding what's going on in our life.
Can you give us some quick tips on how to implement these into your day-to-day?
Absolutely. So when it comes to food and nutrition, the number one thing I see that everybody kind of messes up a little bit on is that sugar, for all of you listeners, sugar is no longer just sugar. It is sugar, flour, dairy, and alcohol. Because flour, dairy, and alcohol, our body interprets it as a sugar and treats it just like a piece of candy. And so we have to understand that with every meal and snack, we really should be having 0 to 1 sugar, and that's it. Because at the same time, too, it gives us a salt high of energy, and we've got to fall from it. And so if we keep kind of like medicating ourselves with these sugars, we're going to have no energy whatsoever, and we're going to have brain fog, and we're not going to know where our keys are, and we're going to wonder, what's going on? So, ideally, we need to cut those down. So it's something as simple as I went to a client's house the other day, and he said to me, I had coffee, cream, and sugar for breakfast with a piece of toast, jam, and juice. And I looked at him, I'm like, okay, that's all sugar. That's not going to make you anything. You're going to get to work, you're going to be famished. And he's like, no. He goes, you know what? I did get to work, and someone offered me a bagel, and I had one of those too. And I'm like,
no.
Well, of course you did, because you weren't satiated. So, I said, you've got to choose. Which one's it going to be? And he goes, I can't give up my coffee, cream, and sugar. And I'm like, fine, then keep that. But then we got to decide on something else for breakfast. So we kind of went back and forth, and the end result was eggs and avocado. So now he has eggs and avocado, and he feels satiated. So then when they ask him if he wants a bagel, it doesn't even affect him because he's still satiated from breakfast. And so then now he can wait until lunch to eat. So, ideally, that's what you want to do. The other thing is that you got to remember that your protein and your fat are the things that are going to keep you satiated longer. So if you have a day, like I had a day today, I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning because I had to go train a client, and I didn't have lunch till 1. So my breakfast had to keep me sustained until 1 o'clock. If I would have had, I don't know, like a bowl of cereal and milk, I would have been famished by 9:30, and I really wouldn't have been able to focus much. So what I did was my breakfast was an omelet with veggies. There was 2 eggs in there. There was veggies and a little tiny bowl of oatmeal with some nuts in it on the side. So it was very heavy protein and fat because I put some avocado and some other stuff on there. And so that kept me satiated all the way until I got to lunch. And so what you want to do is you kind of look at your next meal. So when someone gets to lunch, you got to kind of think, am I starving or am I just ready to eat? If you're just ready to eat, the proportions of your carbohydrates, proteins, and fat for breakfast, they work for you. But if you're famished, they didn't work for you, and you have to kind of play with those. So that's my food talk right there. Next up would be exercise. And exercise is so much simpler than we think. So when I first started in the business, I used to tell clients, you got to work out 3 to 4 days a week for 60 minutes. And then when they came to me and they said, you know what, I only got 48 minutes in, I'd give them grief. And I go, look, you need 60 minutes. This isn't going to work unless you do that. And that was really wrong of me. And I apologize to all you people out there that I ever said that to, because the reality is, and they came out recently, the American College of Sports Medicine said, listen, you only need 150 to 300 minutes of activity per week. And activity is defined as anything that increases your heart rate and makes you sweat. So with that said, the American College of Sports Medicine came out and said you need 150 to 300 minutes of activity per week. And they defined that as anything that increases your heart rate and makes you sweat. But the golden ticket here is they said those minutes don't need to be consecutive. So when I was telling people they needed 60 minutes, it could be like 60 minutes broken out into like 5 or 10 minutes here and there. So now I encourage people, and I'm encouraging all of you listeners, to go when you brush your teeth tomorrow morning or the next day, do that and do some lunges and squats. And then later on somewhere, park further away and walk to your car or use the stairs. And every single one of those little minutes are going to count towards your activity. If you're vacuuming the house and you're breaking out into a sweat and your heart rate's going up, those minutes count. The same as if you start doing, gardening work or any of that kind of stuff, those minutes count as well. So that is my encouragement to you, is really just get moving. And that's what's going to do it. And here, ideally, too, is you always hear about things about your metabolism. And I've got clients that come to me, they're trying to lose weight, and they're like, oh, yeah, but I have a slow metabolism. Well, your metabolism turns on for 2 reasons. One is food, the other is exercise. So if you can increase your activity throughout the day and you graze, which is eating smaller meals throughout the day, then you'll turn on your metabolism a lot during the day and you burn extra calories doing ordinary things, which is really pretty cool. And so our next pillar is going to be sleep and relaxation. So with that said, basically it's about when you wake up the next day, you want to wake up like, yeah, you know what? I'm ready to get up. You don't want to wake up like, oh my God, somebody get a crowbar and kind of pull me out of bed. I need to hit the snooze button 12 times. That's not a good one. So if you're waking up like that, then we got to fix your sleep. You need really good sleep. We have these things called sleep cycles, and they're imperative for our mental function, and they're imperative when we want to lose weight and we want to get stronger. They're super important. So we want to make sure that your room is pitch dark. The temperature in your room is colder than usual. Okay. And if you are one of those junkies that likes to watch, too much TV, or you're on your iPad or phones or any of that kind of stuff, you want to make sure you set the night shift on, which changes the light on your phone. So like mine is already preset. My computers, my phones, at 5 o'clock, they turn on night shift and my screen looks a little yellow, but that takes out the blue light. And the blue light is the one that kind of stimulates us to be awake. So we don't want that on. So you got to fix that part of it. Okay. And then our last piece is what I always say, the creme de la creme, because it's like my funnest part of this whole thing is happiness. You got to be happy. And so you got to hang out with people that make you laugh and giggle and enjoy life. the research study, I love research studies. So one came out recently that said that the average adult laughs about 15 times a day, but the average child about 400. So we're a little behind, people. We need to laugh a little bit more. So, making it our priority to take care of ourselves. I like to go have tea with my friends. I do it quite often. Even if it's only for like 10 or 15 minutes, I'll have a tea with a friend and just kind of chat for a little bit and go off. But doing things that really inspire us and make us feel good and happy. And we don't have to spend hours doing it. It could be something that takes 10 minutes. But that little bit, it creates a mental reset. So even if you take, 10 minutes to have a tea with a friend, for those 10 minutes, you're talking about whatever you're talking. You're probably solving world peace or something, but you're not thinking about your day-to-day. And so then when you go back to your day-to-day stuff, you are more clear-headed and you kind of think of things different and you can be a little bit more efficient with your day. So it's super important. So those are your 4 pillars, and those are my treats for you guys to get those things done.
Well, I got to say, I love that you love studies.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to see when someone bases their theories on studies where they've taken a look at how research has worked out for people and they implement those. That's wonderful. So how does a busy, stressed out multitasker take time for themselves to ramp up their superpowers of health?
First and foremost, you've got to do something for yourself every single day. And I've gone as far, I coach a lot of clients via Skype or live. And when I meet with them, one of the things I make them do is they have to go out and buy, now they do all these beautiful little journals. You can even get them, at your local drugstore. And so I make them find a really pretty journal that they like, and they have to put only one thing per page. So it has to be things they really like doing. So like mine would say, read a book, have a cup of tea. I love doing coloring books and dots to dots. And so each one of those things would be on a separate page. And so then when I have like all this stuff going on and all of a sudden I realize, I got 5 or 10 minutes that I can like do nothing, but I don't know what to do because if I'm so frazzled and I have got so much going on, you always forget about the things you really want to do. So I make them open up that book, and whatever page it lands on, that's what they're going to do for themselves. And I use that as a way of getting them into the habit of doing something for themselves every day. And some people, I even make them put it on their schedule because they just have too much going on. But we have to do that. And again, it's, like I said a little earlier, it gives you a mental reset. In a weird way, it's kind of like meditation, but for yourself, because it's something that inspires you and gives you that feel-good hormone kind of kicking into your body because you really enjoy doing whatever it is that you just did.
That's funny. I was just going to ask if that was, in a way, meditation, because you're stopping paying attention to what you're stressed out about and tuning into something else, and it gives you a rest. That's really neat.
Well, I think we've all come, and listen, I take blame for it, just as a lot of my fitness friends have, done all this stuff. But I think we've complicated health and wellness. And at the end of the day, and of course, there's probably a guru out there listening to me going, I can't believe she's saying that. But just hear me out. Talking to the average person is meditation really is focusing on only one thing. When you really peel off all the layers of meditation. So with that, because you're focusing on that one thing so intently, then all of the mind chatter of your day and the stuff you have to do and the to-do list and stuff like that, they all kind of get put on hold. And you're focusing on this thing. And then all of a sudden, when you leave that thing and you go back to all the chaos of your day, you look at it with fresh eyes. And so all of a sudden you'll go like, oh, wait a minute, I was making that too complicated. I can do it this way instead. Or, wait a minute, someone can help me do this. Or you have these different ideas, and it makes life so much nicer.
Well, I love the idea of writing the different pages in the book and opening to a random page. I think I'm going to try that. I think that's wonderful.
We need to.
So does this apply only to women? Can men benefit from these tips as well?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I wrote the book for busy women just because, again, I kind of started it for myself and my day-to-day. And granted, women do multitask a lot more than men do, but I don't want to take that away from men because I have met some men that are great multitaskers. But it's typically the multitasking is the women, but all of the tips and tools, they go for both. Men or women can help with these things.
So how does food correlate with energy and well-being?
Well, kind of like I mentioned before, and I kind of just touched on it. So your sugars, the sugar, flour, dairy, and alcohol, and caffeine, they all produce a false sense of energy. So all of a sudden you have this spike in energy, and then you got a fall. And so if what happens is there's a little chemical reaction in the back of our brain when we eat something with flour and sugar and dairy and all that, that all of a sudden we feel calm. And so we become addicted to it, and we do it completely unconsciously. So when we have so much going on and we're kind of tired and maybe we haven't rested enough, we just start gravitating to that sugar, flour, dairy, and alcohol and caffeine, and we're doing it to give us this energy throughout the day. Unfortunately, we have these little tiny things, they're like the size of a peanut, called adrenal glands, and those little tiny peanuts are in charge of our energy. And when we have these false sense of energy all throughout the day, the adrenal glands actually get fatigued, because what they're trying to do is like, wait a minute, she just got way too much energy too quick. I have to slow this down a little bit. And if you do that throughout your day, the adrenal glands, all of a sudden that 2 or 3 o'clock hour comes, and they're like, you know what, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And that's when all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I'm really tired. I can't even focus. I don't know what hit me. And it's because our adrenal glands, like, they gave up.
What's your opinion about artificial sweeteners?
So our body, when you eat something, think of your stomach like a big giant blender, and it combines everything. And so what happens is when your body ingests something that it doesn't know what to do with, it's going to store it as fat. So you could have the perfect organic salad with sweet tea that's sweetened with an artificial sweetener. And all of a sudden, the beautiful properties of that salad are completely masked because everything's blended together. And all the body's going to do is recognize the chemicals of the artificial sweetener and go, whoa, I don't know what to do with this. I'm just going to store it all as fat. I call fat cells like these squishy Ziploc baggies. And the body stores anything it wants to in a fat cell because it just doesn't know what to do with it. So unfortunately, that's what happens. I have clients that come to me all the time with weight issues, and you look at their food intake and it actually looks pretty good, but they're supplementing with a Diet Coke or a Diet Soda or an artificial sweetener or something else like this, and that actually is what's causing them to gain weight. Even though the Diet Coke has 0 calories and 0 fat, it doesn't mean your body can't store everything that you're consuming along with it as fat. So you got to be really careful with those things. The only sweetener, artificial sweetener, I guess, well, it's not really artificial, but the only kind of sweetener like that I would say would be okay would be a stevia. But ideally, stevia is actually a tea, and that tea, the liquid from the tea, is what gives you that sweetness. So when you get it in liquid form, like in the dropper bottles, that's your ideal situation. When you get it in the packets that have been way too manufactured and altered, I wouldn't touch those.
Why isn't salt a terrible thing?
Well, salt can and cannot be. So salt in its natural, unaltered state, so such as like a Himalayan sea salt, which is pink, or a Celtic sea salt, which comes in a variety of colors and it's kind of wet and gooey and that kind of thing. Those are great salts because all of its nutrients, the enzymes, and everything are still there intact. Now, on the flip side, you get like a regular generic sea salt or a regular table salt. Those salts have been completely stripped. So what happens is when you ingest them, your body actually needs certain vitamins and minerals to break certain foods down. So instead of the salt coming to you with its own team of vitamins and minerals, it actually has to steal and rob them from you. So that's when it becomes bad. So like when you hear about people like with blood pressure problems, well, the blood pressure problems and their correlation with salt is because they're using table salt. And when they use table salt, those vitamins and minerals that are actually also responsible for keeping our blood pressure at bay are being pulled away from their job in order to break down and metabolize the table salt. So we don't want that. We want to be taking in salts that actually give us some kind of nutrition. So usually I recommend the Himalayan sea salt and the Celtic sea salt.
How are some ways sugar can pace your immune system?
Oh, yeah. So, again, just kind of going back to the salt thing. So when you intake table sugar, those nutrients that are in charge of working your immune system and keeping it fully charged, they have to be taken away from. It's kind of like it was like you had a business and you had certain employees that are in charge of doing, gift wrapping, and other employees that are in charge of, doing stapling. So the employees that are in charge of maintaining your immune system have to leave that department to come and help metabolize and break down the sugar. So all of a sudden, that department is left with no employees. So your immune system gets basically put on snooze. So, I always give the example of if I'm at a party and I'm talking to you and I'm sitting there eating a lollipop and you have the flu, I'm going to have a pretty good chance of catching that flu. On the other hand, if I eat really good and my immune system's really strong and I've got no candy in my hand and I'm talking to you, I've got a pretty good chance of not catching that flu. So we want to keep our immune system always as strong as possible.
So it's more like less sugar can help you pace your immune system.
Absolutely.
Can you talk about some of the recipes that we can find in your book?
Okay, sure. So one of the, again, with my book, it's all really about keeping things super simple. But I do want to encourage people to get back in the kitchen, because most people these days, when I grew up, we used to eat at home all the time, and we'd actually eat out on a special occasion. And now that's completely reversed. Most people eat out all the time, and they eat home for a special occasion. If I can encourage people to go back into the kitchen in an easy manner, that's what I want to do. So there's a bunch of recipes in there, but they're designed to be really super simple. Things like sauteing vegetables with garlic and olive oil and adding some quinoa. But every recipe there incorporates a little bit of carbohydrates from fruits and vegetables, a little bit of protein, and a little bit of fat, so that you stay satiated with whatever you eat. I got muesli recipes, I've got smoothie recipes, I even have desserts in there. But again, it's all formulated so that you have a good amount of protein in there so you stay satiated.
Which recipe is your favorite?
Roasted Brussels sprouts. I love roasted Brussels sprouts. And then I end up mixing them with sun-dried tomatoes and white beans, and I place them on a bed of quinoa, and they're yummy. That's my favorite.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. It looks like we're about out of time for today. Anyone interested in purchasing Adita Lang's book can log into semediapro.com or visit superpowerblueprint.com. Again, this was Adita Lang, author of SuperPowers, The Busy Woman's Guide to Health and Happiness. Thanks again for joining us today, Adita.
Oh, thanks for having me. This was fun.
And listeners, if you're interested in getting your book published, please visit us at semediapro.com and click on the book publishing link. This is Jodi Hockinson, host of Southeast Media Sunrise, Southeast Media Productions. Like us on Facebook at Southeast Media Productions, or visit our website at semediapro.com.